All right. Do we have a topic?
No. I think that what the last 13 minutes and 26 seconds has proven is that we do not have a topic.
Well, Mike
got
sent
nothing.
I did send a LinkedIn message that
he
said
said a
topic.
LinkedIn message. That's it.
That
Yeah.
doesn't mean we have to jump on it as a topic. It was just something I read that looked vaguely interesting, but I think we've recently talked about it.
About
Something
metrics?
like that. Metrics.
Mm-hmm.
So this was something posted by Chris Stone. I think it was on behalf of, no, it's his. So Chris Stone posts 10 metrics more valuable than velocity.
Oh, I don't know what they are, but I'm sure they are better than velocity.
When I saw that title, I thought, well, of course, there's got to be 20,
Yeah.
30 even.
There may be an untold number of metrics, but so he says velocity is the most commonly misused metric.
Mm.
So it's not saying per se that it's a bad metric. It's saying it's used badly.
That's a good point. I have seen it be useful, right? If you've got an estimated backlog, you could start to talk about when your stuff might be done. That's for sure.
And we've talked about it to the point where the team, that it's a team metric. It's not meant for the outside. It's meant for the team as a gauge of their own capability.
I talk about like the oil pressure in your car. You know, there's a number. You don't really care what the number is as long as the number is within a certain range.
You just care if it's in that.
Yeah. If it's too hot,
zone.
if it's too cold, then there's something to worry about other than that. System working as intended.
Yeah.
Moving on. Yeah.
So ways to misuse it. If you're worried more, you're using it more as a measurement of quantity rather than quality. You're using it to compare one team to another, or using it as a target. So,
right.
Anyway,
which could be said actually about just about any metric, that, you know, it's a tool. It's an information tool, and you can misuse it to your delight, or you can use it judiciously. So
it's definitely not the goal, though, right? It's not what the organization is set up to do, is to make the metric look good, or it shouldn't be.
It's a signpost.
Yeah. So what's better than velocity, though? He said rhetorically.
Well, let's see. First one he's got here is days since the last user engagement.
So infinite? How this? So these are teams.
Bigger numbers are better, right? The bigger.
Right. So these are teams talking directly to end users. It sounds like that's interesting.
Well, a user engagement, you could classify it that way. I think there's ways to achieve user engagement without necessarily, pinning a user down in a chair and shining a light in their face.
Well, if
engagement, not interrogation.
Right. They haven't murdered somebody.
Those are very different.
We're not trying
very
to
different connotations.
Charge a crime. Yes.
I mean, in a Scrum environment, if you are holding good sprint reviews and your stakeholders and users are attending and not just observing a presentation, but actually engaged in conversation, arguably, I'd say then at least it should be every couple of weeks, So what would that be? Do you count business days? Okay, 10 business days or something like that. But
and that should go up by 1 for every day of the sprint, and then it should go back to 0.
But when you think about it, if a product owner in that environment is not speaking with stakeholders or users in that interim period, that's I would call that a smell. So if you're just waiting till the sprint review to talk to the folks that you're delivering to, then you're still going to risk being a little bit off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, especially if you're under any pressure to deliver more quickly. Like, why would you wait until the artificial end of this artificial boundary of the sprint? If you had something that was done, wouldn't you show it immediately and get the feedback?
I think equivalent to that. I mean, the daily Scrum comes off as if if no other time do these people talk to each other, we know they'll talk then, right? And so it's a fail safe. And I think the sprint review is a fail safe for customer interaction. It's like it guarantees you're going to have that conversation at least once. And that should be viewed more as the bare minimum. You would expect the team to talk more frequently than just during the daily scrum, and you would expect interactions with your customer, a customer you're keeping close, more frequently than the review at the end of the sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think so. Because there is a tendency to view Scrum as the way to do it, as opposed to improving it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are teams that don't have a daily stand up, but they're in constant communication all day. So they're planning their day together constantly. Like that's better than a daily Scrum. But you have to know that you're doing it consciously.
Do you want to do the bare minimum?
Right,
How
exactly.
many pieces of flair are you wearing? Office Space reference.
Oh, okay. Got it. I haven't seen the movie.
Okay.
You haven't seen Office Space?
I have seen Office Space. I forgot about that scene. Is that the one in the restaurant?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, I noticed you're only wearing 15 pieces of flair. Well, yeah. You said we have to wear. Well, that's the minimum. See, Brad over there's wearing 37 pieces of flair.
And then they smashed the printer in the kitchen. Do I remember that right?
In a field, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
To the song, it feels good to be a gangster.
Anyway.
All right. So,
What's
Jeff, you've never seen Office Space?
I believe I've seen an episode or two while I was on.
It's not an episode. It's a movie. So.
Oh, then that would be a no.
No, this isn't The Office. This is Office Space. So.
And by the way, if you're watching The Office, you want the original British version with Ricky Gervais. That was the funny one.
Oh, okay.
Good to know.
Office Space. I'll have to check it out.
The more you know. Yeah.
All right.
So a number of experiments was the other one. Was the second one.
Number two, the other one, the other of the 10.
Yeah, of the 10.
Yes, number of experiments run.
I was trying not to say number 2.
and failed twice now.
Yeah.
This list is so.
So, but here, let me ask a difficult question. If you write your PBIs or user stories correctly, isn't every work item an experiment? In the sense that you're capturing a valuable problem and then saying, well, if we do these things, we'll solve the problem.
I mean, technically, yeah, you could look at it that way.
That's the victory I'm looking for, technical.
But what's interesting is, I mean, his reference to experiments was around reducing risk, going back to the earlier discussion. By amplifying what works and reducing the things that don't. So to not be afraid of failure. I think there's a piece in there of not being afraid of failure. That just like days since last accident. Days since last failed experiment.
But that should be 0, though. I mean, we should be failing at least half the time.
I know.
Right? Otherwise,
I know. Wouldn't so you would look at as a low number as good. Because we've already discussed that occasionally organizations shy away from the F word.
Please define. Oh, failure.
Yes.
Well,
the best organizations
the
don't.
Other F word.
You want to express myself? There, I'm expressing myself.
But there really is no way to there's no such thing as failure, right? I mean, either you get the results that you hypothesized or you've learned.
Right.
So there's really, there's really no failure.
That would be the hope. That's the learning mindset, right? We're always trying. We're always learning. So yeah, number of experiments run. That could be an interesting metric. I don't know about tracking the number of them. But
it depends on what you think you're doing or what your mental model is for this stuff. If you're building stuff, then great. If you're trying to I mean, if you really, I mean, ultimately, is it like, are you using the scientific method to discover stuff? I guess.
I think it also depends on, the organization. So it's all relative to the organization. Certainly, a smaller startup um, should be experimenting very frequently, whereas a larger organization they still should be experimenting, posing things as experiments, but you wouldn't maybe expect to see that same degree of experimentation because there's a lower tolerance for failure.
Yeah.
That other F word. So,
So, are experiments a formal thing or an informal thing?
yes, I think they can be both.
Okay. Because he points out something he calls the lean experiment canvas.
Oh boy,
Uh-oh, the
another
canvas.
another canvas.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's it seems to be per every experiment that you're doing. You state what the problem is, you state what the outcome, the result, and the trials. So anyway, I
Hmm.
think this is I think this is his own creation.
I'm going to call shenanigans on cat memes shared. I don't know
Oh,
that that's
well, you're
valid.
jumping ahead, man. That's
Sorry.
number 7. Number
My
3.
apologies. My
Number
apologies.
3 is health checks,
Team health. Nice.
team health.
Yeah, I love that. I would call that joy, but whatever.
And
And
you
I
could.
I presume, and I didn't read the detail. I presume that doesn't refer to physical health exclusively. It's more
Hmm.
Well, one could
emotional
be
health, team dynamic health.
sure. Health checks help a team narrow their area of focus. Trends can be gauged to show improvement or not. Um, have you ever tracked team
Oh,
mental
sure.
health, or
Oh, sure. Sure.
how do you do it?
Well, I used to use Nico charts, um, and then Nico.
Yeah, it's every time I hear the name, it strikes me as amusing, but
Well,
it's
it
not.
strikes me as an anime character, but that's
It
different.
sounds like an old Prince record, but I think we've been down this road. It's not Darling Nikki. Go ahead.
But yeah, just kind of just general health checks. I think more I've migrated from team happiness to team morale, and here's why. And I think there is a distinction because any number of things can affect uh, a team or team members, um, that don't have anything to do with morale. If you've got a couple of people that are out with COVID, you know,
Mm.
how do you feel today? I feel crappy. And
Yeah, not
so,
happy.
right, not happy, but I'm still being productive. But I'm working on, half time here or half energy.
Yeah.
And so any of those
Mm.
things can be reflected in that Nico, that team happiness. Whereas team morale, I think, is more, are we communicating well? Are we collaborating well? Are we in the zone? Doing no look passes, that sort of thing. That's what
Mhm.
I think of as more team morale. You've got the connectivity, and when one person is down or not doing so well, somebody else is picking up the slack just to support them as well as support the team. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so and I'm not going off a formal definition here, but I would think that morale, you can have good morale and still be going through a rough time,
hmm
Yes.
right?
hmm
It
hmm
that's
hmm
not an indicator. It's like it's how you respond to the challenges is really more morale.
Reminds me of the podcast I was listening to about a guy talking about the meaning of like finding meaning in life. This is what I do. I sit around and listen to podcasts about meaning. And he said, happiness is a crappy metric for a person because you're going to go through stuff, right? People are going to get sick. Like great, shitty stuff happens to great people. But that doesn't mean so. And if your metric is happiness, then you're going to be failing a lot of the time through no fault of your own, right? And a better metric is something like satisfaction. It's the word this person used. Like, I'm doing the
mm.
best I can. I'm doing the best, I'm getting the best results possible with what I've got, right? I can be satisfied with that, even though I'm not happy or comfortable in the current set of conditions outside my control. Seems similar.
Have you ever seen the Spotify health check?
I've heard of it.
He references it in the article, also pointing
Oh.
to a free template available for download.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah, I
seems
think
to go into a lot of detail. Delivering value, easy to release, fun.
it seems like the
learning.
question is like, with the system of delivery that you have, what parts of it are making people frustrated? Is that kind of the point? To get input from qualitative input from people to say, this part of your system makes me sad.
It could be. Well, and
Please,
not
please
just
change
the
this.
customers, the team itself. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like the developer experience, right?
yeah.
Pushing code sucks. The experience of pushing code sucks. It makes me sad. Please fix it. That's the kind of intelligence we can get out of
But
team
it's
happiness.
just the way we do things around here.
Yeah, well, that's the way that I do things around here. Is I quit and I go to someplace else that doesn't make me so sad. Has a better developer experience. This is the risk for the org. This is what I'm exploring, right?
I see.
I like it.
All right. Let's see. Number 4, dependencies removed. Number of dependencies removed.
I
I
like
think
that one.
that's a good one.
That's a real thing teams have to do.
So that would
No.
also imply tracking number of dependencies.
And I know we've talked about this before, and coming out of PI or big room planning or whatever, and reflecting all the dependencies that exist between teams and between product components, and attacking it there. So even before you get deep into the team, my God, we got a lot of red lines there depicting dependencies. How about we do something about that before we even launch too heavily into this quarter here?
Do you mean taking the work and splitting it out into aligned teams that can own parts of the domain? Yeah.
That might be a solution.
So that you structurally remove or reduce the need for dependencies. Is what I
Increasing
hear you saying.
autonomy, decreasing cost of dependency. He lists 10 different dependency types. But yeah,
Oh, my.
neat
So you
stuff.
did a little deep dive. Okay.
He's got basically every one of these seems to have a deep dive page following the
Oh,
shallow title. Well, not every one of them. See, right there, you get to number 5. That's just the one. Number 5 is improvements actioned.
Gotta have that.
So things you come
Yeah.
out of your retrospectives and things we're
You
going to
need
try
those
and
every
fix.
single cycle, don't you? Otherwise, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I can ruin your team's attitude towards retrospectives just using this one easy step.
Whatever you want to fix, that we're not fixing that.
Yeah, make it all talk, no action. They will stop
exactly.
showing up within a month, as they
And,
should.
and as much as I love retrospectives and push them, I've told teams, you know what? If you're not coming out of there with actions, then you're wasting your time. Oh, then is that a
Oh, then we
license?
don't have to waste our
Then we
time.
don't have
Yeah.
to waste our time. Exactly. So that kind of
Cool.
backfired.
One less pointless meeting. Nice job.
Playing with fire. Yep.
As opposed to if you aren't coming out of it with actions, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, the whole reason is to have a continuous
Yeah.
improvement story.
Just a slight suggestion.
So those first 5 actually sound kind of like behavioral leading indicators. Maybe
Episode title.
if I could call that. So
Okay.
you're looking at, these are all leading indicators of behavioral things that teams and people are doing that should lead to better outcomes. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you're
So
right. They're all behaviors.
if you saw the right behaviors, you would predict an increase in team effectiveness, let's say.
Mhm.
And the next
I don't
one
know.
is
I mean, I think the cat memes could just ruin the whole thing. I'm not sure once you get the confounders in there.
we're not there yet.
Okay,
We're almost
well, that's
there.
cool.
We're
I'm just
almost
saying.
there.
I don't know why I'm fixated.
He comes right out and says that 7 changed his life. We're
I
only on
can't.
number 6. Number
Okay.
6. Value delivered.
Oh, okay, sure. That's easy to say. Hashtag value delivered. Thank you very much. Every place I've gone, it's like, is there some way to measure value? And they're like, no, we've heard
No.
tale of such thing through the ages. It remains impossible for mere mortals. So yes, we should measure value. Thank you, cat meme guy. Absolutely, we agree. How do you do that? That's my
Value delivered, more features delivered equals more value. Serious. That's
then
the perception. The reality is value delivered equals value.
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Building hundreds of features effectively is still a waste if they don't add value. Okay.
I would agree with
so
that.
not more features, not number of features, it's value of features.
Feature factor equals bad.
He mentions 5 types of value: commercial value, efficiency value, future value, customer value, and market value. And 6, no value.
And is he implying all of those, except for the no value, should be baked in, or pick one? In other words, one way or another, you should be delivering value. Choose one of these 5
Right.
or 4 or whatever it happens to be.
Well,
Is he
I
saying
would
there's
say
a trade-off amongst them?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but I mean, you could have, but to be able to look at something and say, well, this is commercial value, this is going to increase our revenue or profit, or this is efficiency value, this reduces the amount of time that we spend on something or saves us money. There's future value. How does this save us money or time in the future?
So it's a bunch of different
so it
types
could
of
be
value.
there could be a cross. I mean, you could have something that's high customer value that also happens to be high commercial value.
Mhm.
Right. So he's saying measure that. All those types, quantify them, and track them over time.
Well, at least identify which type of value you're delivering in one of these things.
It's a little bit else. I mean, it almost begs the question of what is value inherently, or how do you, right? Because you could think of everything. I mean, you can think of anything that you do work to get something or to keep something is by definition value. So you could apply that lens everywhere, really. If you're trying to get it or trying to keep it, you value it, because that's how we define value, I would postulate.
All right. Well, and then there's number 7. We're not even going to talk
memes.
about, Matt.
Cat memes. Cat memes. Everybody with me?
Oh, God.
There's nobody here.
Cat memes shared boosts morale rather than drains it, unless you're allergic to cats.
Exactly.
I feel like if this had not been transmitted to us over the internet, the cat meme thing would not be there.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
So it's just because top 10 sounds better than top 9.
Yeah. And he spent time on Reddit. So is the thing, like, is this part of joy? Is it part of, like, is he saying the team will laugh at cat memes, and so therefore, what's he saying?
Hang in
that,
there,
yeah.
buddy. Yeah. It will boost morale, and therefore it's more valuable than velocity, which does not boost morale.
I'm all for silliness, so I'm not going to say no, but
I would just remove the word cat and just say memes shared.
yeah. Cat
Like,
is
are people sharing fun things with each other?
Cat is unnecessarily specific. Maybe he's being.
He must be a cat lover or something.
Yeah.
Some people are cat people. Not that there's anything wrong
pandering.
with that. I just don't go to their house because they make me sneeze.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Have we pandered to cat lovers enough? And we can move on.
Not anymore. We're kind of all dog people here, so
Yeah, dogs don't really need memes. Like, they will interact with you directly, so that's why they're better. Cat people. I'm sorry.
it's cats and dogs. It's this illusion of enmity between them. It's not the dog's fault. The dog's just trying to play.
Yeah.
It's the
For
cat
sure.
that gets uppity about it. Anyway,
We don't need more division in our society. We should move on.
fair. Number 8, cycle time. See, I'd go along with that. Totally go along with that one.
For sure.
I think everybody's kind of getting into the flow metric thing and recognizing the value of flow metrics as being better ways to measure
It certainly
outcomes.
tends to drive the right behavior.
So interesting. He's got cycle time, but not throughput or
He
work in
mentioned
process or
throughput.
item.
He said one of the most commonly used flow metrics along with throughput, but he didn't explicitly say throughput.
Well, number 9
Which
is
is
throughput.
Is it?
Oh.
Well,
I
there you
believe
go.
It is.
It is.
Because they
See, you're
belong
not
together.
looking-
They're kind of like
You got
bookends.
thrown off by the cat and you didn't look any farther, did you? No.
The cat was compelling. I'll be honest. Okay, so throughput and cycle time, but no work in process, no item aging.
And that's one that I would add. And I think instead of the silly cat thing,
Yeah.
I would say work in progress or work in
Well, okay.
process.
What do you say throughput is? What's your definition of throughput?
How much is how many items accomplished over a given period of time?
Mm-hmm. Completion rate.
So if that time is a sprint,
Yeah.
10
So
stories.
let's
it's number
say
of items in a sprint.
Yes.
So the formula he's got for throughput is WIP divided by cycle time.
And that is actually
Mathematically, that's probably correct.
yes.
Okay.
There is
But
a mathematical
there's
model.
4 things there
Is
that are
that
mathematically
tracked on a day-by-day basis?
WIP is.
I guess it would have to be. Well, throughput, WIP divided by cycle time.
Mhm.
Like you'd have to finish something to get a cycle time, or does cycle time just continually tick up?
The cycle time ticks up until the individual work item is completed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
in which case, as cycle time increases, your throughput number goes down.
Yes.
It does. Very algebraic of you, Mr. Markey.
Well, I'm trying to think of that though, because so the way you counteract that is open more items. So
but then you're
So this is funny, but this is exactly the kind of like reasoning that we want product owners and service request managers or whoever's deciding how much stuff goes into the backlog for the sprint or the iteration to really play with, right? Because they can actually drive up the certainty of that. If you want to make sure that a certain number of things happen, right? Pull fewer things into the sprint, for example, right? Like if you need more predictability, you put fewer things in than you can get done, right? Because that means everything. If you normally get 10 things done, you only pull 7 in. It's highly probable that everything will get done. If you just want to go as fast as you can, like more shotgun scatter shot effect, pull 15 things in, and you'll get 12. But you'll have
are you
less certainty
saying
about
though
which
those
ones will get
7
done.
things all count as WIP, even though you may not have started working on them yet?
Not necessarily WIP, because you could do one thing at a time, right? And you'd have a low WIP. But like the idea is you've got historical data, sprint over sprint over sprint, and it's that on average you get 10 things done. So then you can play with
But if you're taking straight cycle time, so pick a number of days within your sprint to get something done. If you have one thing open and it takes you 3 days to get it done, that's 1/3. But if you had 2 things open, that would have been 2/3, and that's bigger. Therefore, your throughput would be higher. If you get them both done, I suppose.
If you get them, there's an optimum sweet spot, right? There's multiple curves intersecting, and there's a place where you get the most stuff done. And it's not one thing at a time on most teams, but it's not 10.
right.
Yeah, it's your job to find it. So
let's see.
That's
9.
We went from cat memes to flow metrics. I mean, this got much more useful to me.
And then he goes to employee engagement.
We talked about that. Didn't we?
Now that's interesting. I thought since team morale or team health or something like that was that number 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
That almost seems like a duplication of that, because by nature, if team morale or team health or whatever is good and strong, wouldn't you think that naturally employee engagement would be strong and up?
Maybe you've got
I
a
don't know.
team that is really happy because they just come to the office to party. So they're super happy, but they're not engaged with your mission.
They just come
If
and share cat memes. That's
if
their whole. It's just
if you have that problem, then you need to measure for joy and engagement.
yeah.
But you might not have that problem.
They're
So
engaged
how
in
But
cat
completely unconnected to whatever you're paying them for. Could happen.
so so the back five, if the first five were about behaviors, the back five were there was more measurement in there except for 7. And so, we had value, we had cycle time, we had throughput, and then engagement.
I agree. We should measure stuff. It would be helpful.
But the flow metrics seem to be the meme or the meme du jour. The just keep flowing.
It's the future. I'm calling it now.
So, what comes to mind for me immediately, and I'm a big fan of flow metrics, but back in the early years when velocity was one of those metrics, not a flow metric, that everybody was kicking around and using, and it would be kind of became the darling metric. In the same way, I wonder, is this the heyday of flow metrics? And 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we'll say, oh, God, that was, man, those were, no, they're useless. And why will the bloom be off the rose? Is it because we just devolved into this chaos or something? Or there's through misuse of the flow metrics? I just wonder, is this the heyday of flow metrics? Or to your point, Matt, is this really a valuable metric for the future? But like all things, there's up and then, yeah, it falls out of favor later on. And
Yeah.
maybe for good reason.
I mean, I think I can't see a future in which leaders don't want to know when is my stuff going to be done. And so I could see maybe you have such fluency between technical people and business people that like they're just talking on the level of, hey, this valuable thing, is it Tuesday? Is it Sunday? Is it a week from Sunday? Like they've gotten so good at delivering together that they don't have to even count output metrics, right? Like they're just so like it'll be done as very soon as is possible, and we're optimizing all the time. So I'm not even going to bother to do any metric. Like everybody trusts each other here. Everybody's going as fast as we can. No need for a forecast. I could see that happening, but I don't know. Like if what I love about flow metrics is it's so simple. It's just data. It's just probabilities. It's just like it takes all of the opinions out of it. Like this team does 10 things per 2 weeks, period, full stop. Like, and we can give you some valuable forecasts and you probably want those. Like, why wouldn't you want those? Because if it can inform you better, but ultimately not the point, right? Plans are useless, but planning is essential. That's my prediction.
And the one issue with throughput, again, I'm a big fan of flow metrics, but in and of themselves, they are insufficient because you could have a lot of throughput, but if that throughput does not deliver value, so it's got to
Right.
be paired with some value metrics.
That's
And
what I
and and
mean.
and who is it of value to?
Totally. You have to get really, really good at having that mindset about saying that, being busy versus being productive, right? Everybody has to have complete clarity on like it being moving around is no value. right? Solving the problem with no code is amazing. Even though we
So-
hired you to code stuff, if you can solve the problem with no code, that is next level. Like that's the best programmers write no code, sort of as Zen Cohen, right? It's a next level thing, is what I would say. Probably don't need coaching.
Uh-oh, he's
Not
thinking.
Well,
I
that
see
sounds
wheel. I
that's
see.
well, no, that sounds that sounds like somebody's like. What are you talking? If the system is just being configured, then so they're now the best programmers because they wrote a configurable system instead of something that has to be modified by code.
I'm talking about the
I
extreme.
spent time as a developer, and I'm offended by that statement.
That's exactly.
I could
This is
tell.
why. This is why we're not in danger of slipping into this mode anytime.
Yeah.
It's it's the extreme end of the distribution where somebody transcends the nuts and bolts of the thing into like uh, you know solving a problem with a completely different. It's a mindset thing. But you see, it's like Canadian Pacific is not really a train company; they're a transportation company. That kind of a thought process, right?
Okay. So somebody isn't a manufacturer; they're a marketing company. They're
Well, if they could find a new way to deliver the wipes to your house that didn't involve having a factory, I don't know. This quickly gets this is all very
yeah.
esoteric end of the discussion.
I think just the generic statement. It's like the best developers don't write code. It's like okay.
And who actually
So and
are you quoting?
because
on
I've
that?
seen because I mean when that would be nice to know. But I mean,
Yeah.
Jeff, we worked with a pharma at one point, and the group we were working with would say that if they failed to do their job, somebody had to write code. Their job was to find alternatives to writing code. So that wasn't good programmers. That was good project managers or product managers.
It's entirely definitional, right? So like if the job is literally to write C code, then if you're not writing C code, you're not good at writing C code. But if you think of a programmer as not as somebody who writes C code, but as somebody who solves problems, if that's how you define the role, then maybe they learn Python or something. I don't know. But the point is to solve the problem with the best tools available. And the best tool available, here's where we are. The best tool available might not be the one that you've been training on for 10 years. It might be something new that you have to pick up. And if you're a really good problem solver, you'll be open to that level of personal growth and refactoring, which is not common, not very common at all. Okay, I sense that we have reached the end of the usefulness of this conversation. What do you guys think?
Probably.
Does it feel like it's been an Agile thing?
To me, it does.
It has been.
Is.
It has been
Okay.
an Agile thing.
Well, in that case, I've been Matt Beam.
I've been Mike Markey.
And I will be Jeff Singleton.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.
He was Jeff Singleton this week anyway.
See you later.
Mike's been invaded.
Yeah, I've been invaded.
By a bird?